All right. So question 1. I need to get rid of the -4 here, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Draw a line underneath then and work downwards. X is still there. That goes away. Equals is still here. 10 plus 4 is 14, and that is our answer to the first one. So that's worth 2 marks. Next question. I'm going to get rid of the 2 and the 3, so I'm going to subtract 2 first. Okay, and that gets rid of the 2, so 3 x's are then 12. 14 take away 2. Divide by 3 both sides to do the opposite operation to multiplying by 3. Okay, and x is then, well, 12 divided by 3, which is, we can work it out, and it is 4. So give yourself a score out of 4 marks there. Second question then, simplify. So a lot of you couldn't remember how to simplify, and the same as in the Kahoot, you need to work on your simplification skills. You can only add like terms, so only add the same, exact same letters to each other. So for instance, 2 A's and 4 A's can be added together to give, there's 6 A's in total, but I cannot add 5 and 12 to the 6A, so it's just 6A, but I can add 5 and 12 together. 5 plus 12 gives 17. So it's like 2 separate answers. I've just made it a little bit simpler. So that's worth another 2 marks, and that's the final answer for that one. So this was Alma's question. So she did get that for the first one. For the second one, 8x and 2x can definitely be added together to give 10x. But what about 5xy? Do we add that on or not? Can we make it 15xy or 15x plus y? Well, no, we can't do anything with it. It's just adding in 5xy. It's a different term. xy is not the same term as x. So we'll keep these 2 separate. And once again, there's 2 answers because there's 2 different types of terms. Each of those is worth 2 marks. So you can give yourself a score of 2. All right. Moving on to question 3. Is this Ethan's question? Try to look for your answer. Yes, question 3. Ethan says 12. Yes. So question 3 was just a matter of counting up these. 12, 19, 26. You're counting each of these as an individual matchstick. What's the rule then? So Ethan says 7. I suppose you want to be a little bit more specific. It's to add 7 matches. So be more specific, or matchsticks. Is it add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Use the operation as well. So the operation is to add 7, or you could say just plus 7. You would lose marks. Yeah. So if you just wrote the number 7, so there's 2 marks going for each thing. So if you got the table completely right, that's 2. If you said 7 and not add 7, you're going to get 1 out of 2 for this. And the formula then would be for the final 2 marks in this question. So if I'm adding 7, the rule is plus 7. Yes, that's correct, you. So you could say, or just plus 7, if you want to do that. Yeah, you can just write plus 7. Okay. So what is the formula for this pattern? So from adding, we said 7, that's fine. And he said that'd be 2 marks as well. So what is the formula for this pattern? So if I'm adding 7 constantly, so in general, just adding 7 constantly is this pattern. And of course, these are the answers to the 7 times tables. So that means you're going to have to multiply in our formula by 7. So I would expect you to have given, oh no, the key is given, sorry. Y is equal to, so you didn't have to say the key. Y is equal to, because that's the number of matchsticks, is equal to, well, it's going to be 7 times x, 7x. But these are the answers for 7x, and that's not the answers I'm getting here. All these answers are 5 more. So 7 plus 5 will give 12, plus 5 will give 19, plus 5 will give 26, and there are the answers that I have here. So I add an additional 5. Now you could go back one if you want and say, well, if I'm adding 7 this way, what would be the one before it? And that's at 5 by subtracting 7. There's a number of ways you can do that. But this is the formula. Now I see some people are writing stuff like y is equal to x7 plus 5. Get out of this habit if you can, because it should be always number first. Technically it's right, but number first, then letter. You would get full marks for that. X times 7, if you wrote it out, x times 7 plus 5, you get full marks for that, but really do try and get into the correct algebra habit here. Because this is an early question, you'd get a lot of temp marks going. Okay, you did x7, x multiplied by 7. So if you wrote the literal multiplication, it's okay, but we're trying to get out of that habit. Yeah. If you chose to use different letters, Louis, also give yourself full marks, but the letters were stated above here. Okay. So, okay. Ed, there's a hand up there. Has the question been answered? Okay. All right, let's move on. So there was 6 marks going for that question in total. So you can give yourself your 2 marks for each part. Next question. So this is a substitution question. For this, x is 3 and y is 7. So I do know the values of x. And when you know the values of x, we can get the value of this expression then. Because 3xy is 3 times x times y. So a number of people wrote just 337 here, but it's 3 times 3 times 7 plus 7. Okay, so just replace the x and y with their respective numbers from here. So 3 times 3 times 7 is 63, I think, because 3 times 3 is 9 times 7. Plus the 7 here at the end gives me 70. Okay, so if you just gave 63 as your answer, that's 1 mark. And if you remember to add the 7, that'd be 2 marks for this. If you wrote 337 plus 7, that's no marks, I'm afraid. All right. Next question. Same thing here. This is probably a little bit easier, actually. X is just 3 plus 2 times 2y. 2y is 7. That'd be 3 then plus 2 times 7, which is 14. And 3 plus 14 gives 17. So 17 for that one. I'm confused. Do you get the marks if you get the answer correct? Yes, of course. Yeah. So if you just get the answer correct, you get full marks. Yeah. As long as you've done a line of working out of some sort. Any line of working out. Okay. Factorizing, which is also a lot of people were unsure on factorizing. Remember, factorizing is the opposite to expanding. So it's dividing, not multiplying. So I need to divide both these two by something and put it outside the brackets. So it's going to look like something like that at the end. So I can put the brackets in first if I want. So if I ever see factorize, put in the brackets. And then you know you need to fill this in. So a number that divides into both 10 and 5 is 5. Okay, and that's definitely dividing in. And a letter that divides into both, well, x is common to both, so x would work. So in other words, you've divided both these terms now by 5x, the opposite way around. Okay, so what's left behind? 10 divided by 5 gives 2 anyway. And only one of the x's has been used up, so we need a second x here. Second question, 5 divided by 5 is just, well, 1. I'm not going to write in 1 though. If there was nothing left over, I would write in 1. but there's also a y here that hasn't been taken into account. So I'm going to use that y. Okay. There's issues with the Wi-Fi here, so but I'm back now. If I said 1y, is that correct? Yeah, that's fine, Ezra. There's generally no need to state if there's only one of them. All right. Okay, I'm back on two screens again. All right. So this one, well, I need to do the same thing. What number divides into 4 and 8? Well, 4 goes into them, but remember, pick the biggest number. I'm going to fully factorize. Fully factorize means highest common factor. Any letter in both? Well, I see B is there. Okay. So these have both been divided by 4B. Okay. So what's left behind out of this one? Well, the 4 and the B are gone, and there's an A left behind. So this one, well, 8 divided by 4 is 2. The sign will be the same. And, well, the B is already taken care of. Remember, you can always test. So this is the answer. You can always test your answer by multiplying it back out. 4B times A is 4AB in alphabetical order. And 4B times 2 is, well, 2 times 4 is 8B. Okay, so this is the answer for 2 marks. All right, so that question was also worth 4 marks. Moving along. So this expansion is the opposite to what you just did. You're multiplying now instead of dividing. So remember, factorizing, think dividing, put in brackets. Expanding, think multiplying by removing brackets. Get rid of those brackets. Okay, so let's multiply this out. 2 times x gives 2x. 2 times 3 gives 6 plus 3x. And now it's a simplifying question, like one of the previous ones. Add just the like terms, the ones that look alike. 2x and 3x are buddies, so there's 5 of those x's, and plus 6 here. Can't add the 6 because it has no friend to add it to it. All right, the next one. So same thing. If I see these brackets in an exam, multiply them out. More than likely, that's what the question's going to be asking. Even if you're solving, multiply them out. 4 times A gives 4A's. 4 times 2B's gives 8B. Yes, that's fine, Charlie. It'll still be minus because there's no sign to change it. Plus 2 times A gives plus 2A's. And plus 2 times plus B, well, that's both pluses, so that's okay. They're both positive still. 2B's. Okay, now we're talking about like terms, adding. So there's apples and oranges, or A's and B's if you want. 4 A's, so 4 apples plus 2 apples gives me 6 of them. And this is a little bit trickier. 8, negative 8 and plus 2, or minus 8 plus 2. You could read that the other way around. Plus 2 take away 8. Either way, you're going to get negative 6B's. So if you want, you can draw a number line in here. So you're starting at negative 8B's. So negative 8, and then you're adding 2. So you go this way, and you end up at negative 6. Okay. Each of these is worth 4 marks. If you multiplied out correctly, you would get 1 out of the 2 marks going for each question. Sorry, it's 4 marks in total. If you expanded correctly and added them correctly, simplified it correctly, you get both marks. Okay. So there's 1 mark for each line. 1 for this line, 1 for this line. Okay, good, Louis. All right. Moving on. Question 7. So back to formula creation. So all the questions from now on are just a little bit harder questions of the previous questions. Well, actually, the formula I think was a little bit easier, this one. But yeah, all the skills have been asked already. Just I asked them again with a little bit more difficult questions or different questions. Okay, so if you're able to do the first 6 questions, you should be able to do the rest in theory. All right, this one, I'm adding 3 each time. See this. Every next term, I add 3. So when I notice I add 3, I notice that I need to multiply by 3 in the formula. Now, technically, you should have given a key here. X is going to be shape number. Y is going to be number of matches or matchsticks. Okay, technically you should. Okay. Or if you did A and B, that's fine. But as long as you said which is which. Now that will lose you a mark in the exam if you haven't said your key. You just circled S and M. If you did something to suggest why you used the letters you used, that'll be fine. If you've done nothing and just wrote the formula, you can only get 2 out of 3 marks for this, I'm afraid. Okay, so I have labeled my variables, and now I'm going to create the formula. So it's the same thing. Number of matchsticks is going to be given by, well, now 3 times x, because of my plus 3's. And I need to figure out what is going to be plus or minus. That's fine, Louis. That's fine. Okay. So my relationship, well, if I want, I can write in the 3 times tables answers here beside them. So this answer would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And I look at the relationship between these numbers, and I'm always 2 away. Always 2 away. And so I need to add that 2 that I'm away. Or I could have just gone back 1 term, and I would find that 2 as well. Either way. But my formula is, depending on what letters you used, y is equal to 3 times x plus 2. All right. So we're on to question 8. So if I see brackets like this, I would multiply out the brackets. 2 times x and 2 times 5. So that's 2x minus 10 is equal to 10. Now I'm thinking I'm ready to solve. So the first bit was just getting ready to solve. Now I'm actually going to solve by eliminating, doing the opposite and subtracting or adding. So in this case, I want to get rid of that minus 10 and I want to get rid of that 2. But I'll get rid of the 10 first. Add 10 to both sides to get rid of that. 2x then, equal sign comes down. 10 plus 10 is 20. Nearly done. Divide both sides by 2. Let's get rid of the 2 times x. So x will be 20 divided by 2, which is 10. So there's 6 marks going for this question. That's 2 marks for each one. Next one. I need to get rid of the 5 and the 2. Now both of these have been divided by 5, which means I can start off by multiplying both sides by 5. And I'll do that. 5 into 5 goes once here. So I'm just left with the x plus 2, which is what I wanted. And 6 times 5 over this side. So this side got 5 times bigger. And now I have 30. Okay, so it's not too bad now. One more step. Get rid of the 2 and ready to go. Beautiful. Look at it. 28. All right, 2 more marks for that one. This one. Okay, some negatives here. I think the answer is also a fraction. Don't be scared of fractions. It's just another number. It's just a bit of a number instead of a whole number. Add 7, and I'm going to have to divide by negative 3 in a while because it's multiplying by negative 3. But I'm going to add the 7 first to get rid of the 7. Need to get rid of these 2, don't I? 3 and 7. Negative 3, negative 7 need to go away. So I just left with x. That's gone anyway. 6 plus 7 is 13. Negative 3 times x is still here. All right. right, so I need to get rid of negative 3 times x by dividing by negative. That fits perfectly in once, so I'm left with that 1x I want. Now, you can give this answer, you can leave this answer as this. It's a negative fraction, 13 over 3. Or you can use your calculator if you want to convert it into 4.33, I think, 3 recurring. If I'm not mistaken, negative 4.3 recurring. Or negative 13 over 3 is a fraction, or negative 4 1/3. All those answers are acceptable.
Mr. Collins, is it negative 13 over 3? Is it 13 over negative 3?
Good question. What's the difference? So you're asking me, I think, is it, I'll just put it down here, is it negative 13 over 3, or is it 3 like that? Or is it kind of negative in the middle like this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, good question. Think about the way any number can be written. So if I have the number 2, it can be written 2 over 1, can't it? Any number can be written as a fraction. So let's say instead of 2, I have negative 2. How do you write that as a fraction? Is it negative 2 over 1, or is it 2 over negative 1? Well, in fact, the whole number is negative. And the same for this. The negative can go with either. All these are correct. The whole number, it's a number. It's not 2 separate numbers. It looks like 2 separate numbers, but it's one, right? It's a fraction. So you could change it to a decimal. Same as way, if you have negative 1/2, it is written negative 0.5. That's still a number. That's a number. This is a number. They're all a singular number that are related by 2 numbers. But it's a singular number. It's a singular value.
So any of those options
Any of them is fine. Now, properly, the correct way to write it is to say the whole fraction and don't just have the denominator negative. So as in, if you wrote negative 1/2, you would write negative 1/2 like that. You wouldn't put the negative with there or there. So technically, you should write negative 13 over 3 as in the whole fraction is negative. So make it like that. But that's a great question. So, so avoid leaving just the denominator negative and call the final answer like I did here. The final fraction is kind of negative. So put it in line with the numerator denominator divider here. Okay, good question though. All right, so moving along, question 9. Another substitution question. So x is 3 and y is 5 again. So yeah, negative 4.33 is correct as well. If you're saying a recurring decimal, do put the dot over it to suggest that it is going on forever, or say that you rounded it. All right. So x is 3, so that's going to be 3 times 3, and y is 5, so that's 5 times 5. 3 times 3 is 9, 5 times 5 is 25, and 9 plus 25 then is 34. Okay, so that's another 2 marks. If you got that. Next one, x squared. Remember, x squared is x times x. You can write it xx if you want, plus 2y. It's different to 2x. It's not multiplying by 2, it's it by itself. So that'll be 3 times 3 plus 2 times 5. So 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 5 is 10, 9 plus 10 is 19. Okay, so 2 marks for that, 2 marks for that. Question? Olivia, do you have your mic on by mistake? Oh, yes. Okay. All righty. On to the last page. A few interesting questions on this page. I think you'll agree. First one, we have to deal with some factorizing. Okay. This is probably our last I would say yellow level question is question 10, and after this, from 11 down, are blue and challenge questions. Okay, so factorize this. Number that divides into both 3 and 18, 3 is the biggest one, and letter that's common to both is x. Okay, I need my brackets. So I'm dividing them both by 3x. For question 8c, yeah? Charlie, what's that about?
Lewis is asking if 4.33 recurring was negative 4.38 was the correct answer.
Yeah, it's one of the answers, yeah.
Eight,
Yeah,
I
one of the
think.
answers. Yeah,
Yeah.
acceptable. Yeah. Okay. So I'm dividing 3x squared by 3x, so I'm left with x. X squared has 2 x's there, so x times x. Not 2 x's, x times x. What's left out of 18? So 18 divided by 3 is 6. The signs will be the same here. There's nothing to change them. The x is gone, but there's still a y squared here, so y squared with a little 2. Okay, so that's worth 2 marks. Part B then. Both these have 4 in common, so I'm definitely going to have 4 outside the bracket. I'm looking for a letter in common, but there is none. There's only a letter here and none there. Okay, so that means I've done my job. I've factorized. So these are both just divided by 4. All right, so, well, 4 into 4 goes once, so we're just left with a here. And 4 into 4 goes once, so we're left with plus 1. Need to have that second term. Because if I multiply that back out, 4 times a is 4a, and 4 times 1 is 4. So I have to test this, make sure if you have time in the exam, multiply it back out and see if you get the same thing as you started with. Okay. And that wouldn't work out though, you put it, because 2 times a is 2a, 2a plus 4, and we need 4a plus 4. Osborne, I even put it in bold in this question, fully factorized. So you get 1 mark out of 2 for that if you didn't fully factorize. Okay. So fully factorized translates to use the highest common factor, not just any old common factor, like 1. Use the highest one you can find. So otherwise you just divide them all by 1 and then you'd be good. Okay. No, I wouldn't give any marks for 1, Charlie or Ezra. No. If you use the factor of 1, no. No, it wouldn't be 1 mark, Charlie. It'd be none. Using not the highest common factor, like 2 would be worth the mark less, but using 1 doesn't work. It doesn't change. It doesn't factorize at all. You haven't changed it. Okay. Solve this difficult blue level question. Okay, we will. If I see brackets, multiply out the brackets first. 2 times x to give 2x. 2 times 3 to give 6. Now there was no sign to change that one, so that's okay. This time I'm multiplying by negative 5. Negative 5 times 3x gives negative 15x's. Now, negative 5 times positive 3, the second multiplication here. Well, I know it's 15 again, and minus times a plus is a minus. So I'm sure some of you already made an error there by having a plus. I hope not. Okay. All right. Do I start solving now? No. No, I'm not ready to solve. If there's stuff on the same side that can be added together or subtracted, do it first. There's no point in taking away 2x or 15x, because then I just add stuff to this side and I haven't really got rid of very much on this side. So 2x take away 15x's is negative 13x. So these two combine. Negative 6 take away another 15, goes way into the negatives, goes right down to negative 21. And that equals 14 still. Okay. Add 21 to both sides to get rid of the 21. That goes. So now I'm starting to solve, you see. Once I'm left with this many terms, a two-step equation I can solve. This had too many terms on the same side to solve, really. So simplify it down if you can. All right, so adding, so that gives me minus 13x's here is equal to 14 plus 21, which is 35. Divide both sides by negative 13. So that goes into that. What's my final answer? I'll just put it up here. X is equal to, so it's negative 35 over 13 for the same reason as the previous answer. Or if you want to write it as a decimal, did anyone write it as a decimal, I wonder? It's around negative 2.7 if you round it to one decimal place, or negative 2.6923 if you didn't round it. Okay. Yes, it does, Ethan. Yeah. Yep. So that's worth 3 marks. If you multiplied it out correctly, you get a mark. So if you multiplied it out incorrectly, I'm afraid you don't. All right, so now we had another challenge question worth 3 marks. So it's substitution. So this time I don't have to solve, I just have to evaluate. There's no equal sign to solve. So I just need to put these numbers in and then work it out what the answer is. So x is negative 3, so I'm just replacing x, y, z here. Negative 3, negative 5, and 2. Minus then whatever x squared is. So that's going to be minus 3. Well, x squared is x times x, so minus 3 times minus 3, if you will. And that's all divided by 2xz. So that's 2. So notice the way I'm putting in brackets. Just brackets will show that I'm multiplying. X is negative 3 and z is 2. And then after I work out all that, I'm going to subtract 7 times x. 7 times x. Oh, a lot of negatives here. But once again, we'll just deal with them bit by bit. So I'm just going to work out this little bit here. And I'm just going to put the answer to it below. So negative 3 times negative 5 is negative, oh no, it's positive 15, isn't it? Because minus times a minus is plus. Times 2, then 15 times 2 is 30. Now you do have use of calculator, so you can work out this, but you need to show step by step. You can't just type it all in at once. Okay, and subtract, so I'll just do that. I'm going to work out this bit next. So notice the way I'm doing the multiplying next. First, oh, Cranky, you got a different answer, okay. Negative 3 times negative 3, what's your new answer? Is 9. 3 times 3 is 9, and minus times minus is positive. Okay, you got 19.25, ooh, could be right. A few people, I think you weren't the only one who got that yesterday. 2 times 2 times 3. 2 times 3 gives 6, times 2 is 12, and I think that's a negative, so that's a negative 12. And this, I can do this multiplication as well. Yeah, I think, yeah. Negative 7 times negative 3 is going to be plus 21. All right. So this is like brackets. This needs to be done before I can divide by 12. Or I could divide them both by 12 separately, but I think it's easier just to do this. So 30 take away 9 is 21. So where will I lay out my work? So I'm going to just put a line here, and then I'm going to start up here again. So that's going to be 21 on top, divided by negative 12, plus 21. Okay, well, I don't like to use calculators. Maybe I will in this case, but you can just type this into your calculator if you want to get a final answer. This is not a number test, so you can just use that. Or you can find a common denominator, which would be 12, and you have to multiply this by 12. Or you can change this to a mixed fraction and rearrange. So it'll be 21, if I put this first, plus 21, take away this. And this is a mixed fraction. Well, that fits in once. 12 into 21 goes once. And we got, okay. 12 and 21 goes once, and the remainder is 9, so that's 9/12. 9/12 simplified is 3/4. Now, I did that quite fast because you can just do this on your calculator if you want. So that's 21 take away 1 3/4. Well, that's a lot easier. 21 take away 1 is 20, and then 20 take away 3/4 is going to be 19 1/4. Once again, could have been done on the calculator. 19.25 if you want to put it into decimal form, and a couple of you got that. Well done. Okay, so on to the last question. Now you do notice the last question, each question's only one mark, so 1 mark for each of these. So you either get the method and the answer right, or you just don't get anything for them. All right, so this one, there's a number of ways you can go about this. You could subtract 2x from both sides if you want. Don't really want to do that. I want to get rid of this fraction first, and then I'll do the subtraction of the x's. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 7. Everything on both sides by 7. 7 to the 7 goes once here, so I'm just left with 3x. 7 times everything on this side is 14x minus 14. So I multiplied both sides by 7, not just the first term, both sides. Now, get rid of the smaller x. Well, once again, there's a little problem here because I'm going to be left with no x, nothing on this side, but that's okay. I'll get rid of minus 3x anyway. That goes. So that's left with 0. 14 take away 3x is 11x minus 14 here. All right. Now I need to get rid of now I have x on its own. Now I need to get it right in its own. I need to add the 14 to get rid of 14 here. That goes. So I'm just going to write it down here. 11x is equal to 0 plus 14 is 14. Final step then, divide by 11 both sides. 11 into 11 goes once. X is 14 divided by 11. Or you could say 1 3/11, which is around 1.3-ish. Yeah. So remember, if you think your answer is correct and you have time at the end of the exam, which a few of you did, and I remember, Priyanka, you having time at the end of the exam and not rechecking your answers, any solving equation, you can put your answer back in and make sure it works. So you could put in 14 if you want. Now, if you put in 14 here, this answer is going to be around 6, this left-hand side. And this answer is going to be way bigger than 6. 2 times 14 is 28, for example. Yeah. So you got to be... can you multiply a number by a letter? Of course you can. If you know what the letter... Well, you can multiply it and you can leave the letter, but now you know your answer. So if you think your answer is negative 14, just take this equation, 3x, and use substitution to test if it's right. Because if it's right, the left-hand side has to equal the right-hand side. So you would say 3 times negative 14 over 7. Is that the same as 2 times negative 14 minus 2? Okay? And 3 times negative 14 divided by 7. Just do it on your calculator. Do that side out. Do that side out. I think that this side is a lot different to that side. Whereas my answer is right. Okay, so that's a test. So if you do have time in the exam, which some of you will, not all of you, but some of you will, test your answer. Test your answers to the difficult equations. Okay. All right, let's get through these last 2 questions. 3 times 3x. So always multiply first. If you have brackets, I think it's just the easiest thing. You can divide, but I think it's easier to just multiply. 3 times 3x gives 9x. 3 times 3 gives 9. Negative. All right, so what do we do with a negative here? That means you're taking away the x and minus plus 1. And that's, of course, minus 1. Minus plus is a minus. Okay, Charlize. Or you can think about it, you're multiplying by minus 1, but no, the minus must affect everything in the brackets, otherwise they would have written it differently. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 then, like terms here. So there's a load of terms on this side. Let's put the ones I can together before I start solving. So 9x take away x gives 8x. 9 take away 1 gives 8 as well. And that equals 1. So we just added and subtracted the like terms. Subtract 8 from both sides to get rid of this plus 8. So 8x equals negative 7. And then divide both sides by 8 to finish. And x is negative 7/8. Okay. And the final question. All right. So remember, these are only worth 1 mark, so not worth the whole pile of marks. They're the challenge questions at the end, just to see how you would contend with them. All right, so x squared. Well, I'll come to that in a second. But if I want to get rid of this 5 anyway, minus 5 both sides. Minus 4 take away another 5 is minus 9. Minus x squared is still minus x squared. Okay. Well, that's minus 1x squared. If minus x squared equals minus 9, positive x squared must equal positive 9. Okay? But x squared equals 9, not x. So this is a bit weird. Now, a number of you divided by x both sides, and that's not a bad idea, but the problem is then you're left with an x over here as well. That's not going to work out. This is a kind of a trial and error to solve, because x, of course, is x times x. So you can think, what number times itself gives 9? And the answer is 3. 3 times 3 gives 9, so x must be 3. Now there is, not this year, but in future years, you'll be able to solve this by going, well, what's the opposite of squaring, and something called square root. You may see that button on the calculator sometimes. It's the opposite of squaring. Another way, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. The opposite of squaring is square rooting. So what is the square root? What number squared gives 9? And that is also x. You can test that out in your calculator. Okay. I will forewarn you now, I won't put something with x squared in the exam. That was just a bit of fun for the last question. Okay. So you can add up all your marks, what you think you might get there. Of course, this is a practice test, not the real test. The actual exam will be very similar to this. So it'll have kind of the same number of questions, the same number of solving questions. You've been, oh yeah, so some of you might have seen the square root before. That's cool.
Mr. Collins, what is the test out of?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So this one is out of 3, 6, 9, 13. I hadn't had them up before. 4, 23, and 4, 27. And 12 is 39, and 10, 49, and 3. 52 marks in this one. 52. So, thank you, Charlie. 52 marks. So if you want to work out your percentage, which of course you should know how to do anyway, but you